You ever have that time that everything is going right and you feel like you're supposed to be that super Christian and you're supposed to just be just in love with the moment and interceding for the Lord? Well, I am not feeling that way. I am extremely frustrated, and I am going to break down why I am like that. So earlier today, I was spending time with my family, and I have this amazing opportunity to spend a lot of time with them over the next few weeks and months. And it's pretty much clear skies ahead. And I've had a couple of these chances over the years with different. One was a medical condition, one was a parental leave, and now I'm in a new situation, new horizon here, and it just is working out extremely well. I am blessed beyond measure. And when I was growing up, I had, a lot of problems come my way. I almost felt like I couldn't even get a momentary gasp of air. And here I am now, 20, 25, 30 years later, and I'm breathing super well. And yet I am just not content. I am irritable, I'm easily frustrated. And that's not the normal me, that's just this momentary me. And it really had me almost beside myself that, the flesh was still working overtime in attack mode, I guess you could say. So I'll break it down for you a little bit. So, each of these moments and times that I've had these amazing breaks, I've come to the realization that I needed the rest and needed the break because something was going to shift, a big change in my life was going to happen, and I recognize that now. I know that I know the answer. I know what the answer is supposed to be theologically. I know the Christianese answer, and yet I am absolutely unequivocally perplexed at how my flesh, who I am, Stephen Tocher, is just still irritable at different situations. I'll explain. My daughters are sick right now. They're just not having the greatest of times. My one of them is gotten over it. One of them is in the midst of it, and she's just not doing so well. And they're both just whining machines. They're just whining and whining and whining, and they're doing what typical kids do. And God bless them. I love them to bits, and it breaks my heart that they're sick. But just everything is getting on my nerves. And my wife already feels bad that she knows my ambition, she knows my drive, and I'm making this time to stay home with the family and to be a good steward of my time. But she knows that I am built in a way to support my family, be there for them in every which way possible. But as a man, I was made to build. I was made to drive and do stuff and be on the go. And she's the prototypical homebody. And of course, every relationship's different. Every spousal situation is different. So I'm not telling anybody to live a certain life or to act a certain way. It's just more so that's how I'm wired, and that's how she knows I'm wired, and that's how she's wired. And she loves being around the kids pretty much all the time. She has breaks. I give her breaks, of course, from time to time. But now that I'm home and she's has taken 60-70% off the gas pedal, I'm doing a lot more, and I should be unbelievably happy and thrilled, which I usually am around my family. This is the first time it struck me in the past, I'd say 2.5, 3 weeks since I've had some time off, where I just was an irritable, kind of short-circuited, not so wonderful person. And it really ate at me. And so I thought to myself, Steve, you got to dig back into this and remember the reasons why you used to have anger issues and frustrations, and why each time you're getting better at it, but why it's still coming up, because there's always a root to these problems. There's always a root to these issues that is, as men in particular, and stereotypically as men in particular, we got to work out. We got to really bring before God, before either mentors or counsel or our spouse or whoever it might be, to really check where there's a blind spot. So I started going through my progression, and one of those things is proper sleep and nutrition. That's definitely there. I been slacking a little bit on my nutrition, and my sleep has been pretty good, but I'm still feel like I'm catching up from pulling off 60, 70, 80-hour weeks for months and months at a time. And so now I'm at a point where I just have to breathe and relax and just allow my heart and my mind and my spirit and my body to take a break and stop continually pushing. Because that's, I think, one of the things that our culture has, shoved down our throats is just non-stop, always on, go, 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 push, push, push. And it is not healthy. It is not conducive. It is not okay in the long term. You cannot keep that going. And I'm feeling it right now. And it is just not good for your immune system. It's not good for the people around you. I was hangry. I was hangry today. I should have packed something. I should have ate something. I should have told everyone to stop. But me being the prototypical dude that I am, I'm pushing off my own feelings and my own needs. Worried about my super pregnant wife and my two daughters who are super sick. And I forget one of the number one mottos that I think every parent, especially every dad, should have, as the kind of the provider, the last line of defense, in a quote unquote stereotypical family, is that if you don't put the oxygen mask on first on an airplane, and the plane is having some difficulties, and you try to get the mask on to everybody else, you're going to be the one that falters and fails. And those children in particular are going to fail because of it as well. Of course, in this case, my spouse is not at 100%. So if I don't put the oxygen mask on right away, I'm not going to be able to help her. And I didn't take the time to rest properly and just slow things down and put things in perspective. There's been just so much stuff flying around, and I'm getting anxious about things that at times I just can't control. And so I really had to just slow everything down to a crawl this afternoon. And it took me about 5 or 6 hours to stereotypically, when I have anxiety, like I might feel a little shortness of breath, or I might, need time to relax. But this was a different form of anxiety. This was an anxiety that was causing me to be super, super frustrated. And so the hangry aspect and the lack of sleep was not helping. But this, I'm just grabbing another bottle here, I gotta wash. This was something that I haven't experienced in some time, and I thought to myself, I have to post about this. And I also do it because I feel in my heart that hopefully, some of you parents, people in general, can associate with this and be helped by it, and God can work through it. But also, when you share it with others, and you are willing to talk about it, depending on how private the situation is. I'm not going to go to the internet with my private life and situations in that, in that regard, or something that's life altering or life threatening. But when you go, to someone and you not confess, not in a Catholic sense, but when you're able to share with others, in this case on this video, you're able to process it, and you're also able to take that weapon away from Satan. Because if you don't process it, then Satan will be able to get at you and be able to manipulate you and cause you to think about the what ifs. But when you start talking about it and you have good communication, or even if people blast you because of what you're sharing, at least you're getting it out there, and you're putting it out there, and you're saying that I have these faults, I am not perfect, and I don't need to put on a facade for anybody. I am falling short, and again, of course, if it's a very private situation, I'm not sharing it. I'm not giving the devil a foothold. But in a situation like this, I thought this is the best way to humble myself, to take away any pride that I have, and post about this situation that I'm pretty sure most, if not all of us, struggle with. This issue of letting the evil thoughts win, letting the frustration, the hunger, the situation of feeling inadequate. And I'll get into my reasons why I felt this way in a moment. But I wanted to share with you so that, if any of y'all are feeling that way, I just wanted to say it's okay. It's okay to feel those things. It's okay to, express them with people, but don't sin. Don't hurt other people in the process. Don't do things that you'll regret. Process it, talk to someone, get it out there, figure out why you're doing this so that you can cut it short and you don't do something that you regret in the long term. So why was some of the reasons I was feeling this? Well, not only am I a very active and proactive person and I want to do the best that I can, and yeah, sure, my kiddos are whining and I'm doing a lot more housework and just work in general to support my wife during this really tough time that she's in. But I was doing it because, there was a certain amount of pride in me, that says, why are you taking this on? Like, is this really your role? What did people do for hundreds or thousands of years beforehand? Is this the thing that you should be doing? And I had to go to war with that thought process and just remind myself and encourage myself in the word, which is to take care of my wife like Christ took care of the church, to love her, to do the things. A lot of men will say that they love their wives and they do anything and love them like Christ would, but they're not willing to take out the garbage. They're not willing to give that extra foot rub. They're not willing to remind themselves that, a lot of the time women are going through not only a lot on the spiritual and mental and emotional world, but their physical bodies. They're bleeding, they're going through menopause, they're having their period for the first time. They're dealing with the stresses that is put on their body, images and or instructional videos or people's influencers who are telling them to eat a certain way that is not actually good for their bodies and may not be even how the influencers are eating. There's just so many terrible messages that are going out that way that, I think the Bible is just very clear to become one flesh with your spouse, with your wife in particular, in this case for me. And, that hits home really hard because, she is my one flesh. There's no other place in the Bible, there's no other place I think in human history that talks about having a symbiotic relationship, that you are joint in a union other than a husband and a wife, like, not even a parent and a kid or, a best friends or whatever it might be, even though Jonathan and David had a relationship that was said to be, very different but very close to a marriage. But with that being said, it's marriage is held in such a high regard. And so I had to really just beat my pride down and say, I'm here to support my wife in whatever way is necessary. That, of course, is spiritually right, but any way necessary. And I am completely willing to, move around the stereotypes of the world that usually doesn't get most of the things right, anyways, or even the quote unquote Christian world that a lot of the times has sadly been influenced by worldly thought processes. So that was, I think, one of the big factors, is that I was kind of even wrestling with what I already kind of had patriarchally put in my mind as what roles were. And of course, just the girls being so sick, and there are stresses that men and women can take differently, like women are built, they from day one to house these beautiful people. We're all babies at some point outside of Adam and Eve, and to house these little ones and to nurture them and to take care of them. And you see that in the animal kingdom, how mama bear is relentless in protecting her cubs, and there's this unique relationship that happens. And mothers have a tolerance, I think, that sometimes fathers don't. But at the same time, fathers have this ability to, not in every situation, but in most situations, to bring a deep sense of peace and order and strength to the situation. And that's what I had to dig into today is where is my strength and order and peace and hope coming from? How do I guide my family in this situation? How do I not get frustrated at things that I say to my wife or my wife has said to me? And I was then reminded of what it says in Peter, that essentially if you are not right with your wife, if you're not being kind and gentle to your wife, God, it will hinder your prayers to God. And that is so scary. That is something that is so super serious. I do not want to be in a situation where my prayers are hindered to God. And that comes from, the way that you love one another, right? It's not the fact that God is asking us to live a certain way or be a certain way to access Him, but if our hearts aren't right, then we won't be able to connect with Him properly, because we're not connecting with the persons that's right in front of us that we can live our love out to in the most beautiful and caring and compassionate way, and what God has allowed us to model, which is like Christ marrying the church, being together with the church. So that was something else that I had to really dig deep into and ponder and just, I guess you could say, reacclimatize my mind to the situation that was at hand, and just think about what she's going through, what the kids are going through, and just take my ego and just punt it far away. You have to choose to love. Especially, men kind of maybe can sometimes understand this better, but sometimes they can't. You have to, you may not feel that love coming your way, but you have to choose love. You have to choose it. Love is also an act of the will. And so once I started to get through that brain exercise, I started to think about the other times in my life where I've struggled with these areas, where I was in a good situation and yet I was still frustrated. And it was a lack of contentment, a lack of actually resting properly. It was a situation, the situations that have been like this in the past for me have usually come when I should be resting, because there is another wonderful gift, or there's another wonderful situation or hard set of work coming up ahead, and I didn't take the beautiful opportunity to just rest. I was just continuing to push agendas, trying to push videos or scripts, trying to get that next project done, thinking to myself that I'm wasting my time, when God's in control of all of my time. What am I doing here, right? Where God is doing wonderful things in the background and in the foreground. Why am I stressing out so bad? And that helped me once again to slow the train down and just bask in the moment. And instead of being so super frustrated that I couldn't do the things I wanted to do, I just thought, if God wants something done, isn't He big enough to get it done? I just had to start reminding myself of all of God's wonderful truths. And that started to relax me. I started to enjoy the moments with my girls laughing and dancing and singing, and also coughing and fighting and getting into mischief and laughing and, screaming and running around. And as the day progressed on and I started to come to these realizations, I once again thought about something that, if you've been on the channel before, you've heard me say that we're so like little kids to God. There's the most mature person or Christian in the world. It's got to be like 5 or 6 years old in an even remote comparison to how mature and how majestic and how perfect God is. And not even that. Like, that's such a gross, like, I'm giving us way too much credit, I should say. But, I with the analogy that I have in my mind, I'm thinking of the most, intellectual Christian as basically being in kindergarten. And it just wows me all the time that God loves us so much and cares about us. And as I watched my toddlers kind of toddling around and just enjoying being silly, I thought, Lord, I was doing this all day. I was acting this way all day today. I was just not content. I was miserable after God had just supremely blessed me the day before and given me so much hope, so many wonderful things for a new future. And here I am once again, just letting the day and the world get to me, forgetting God's promises. So once I recalibrated all that, and I went through maybe 4 or 5 situations where I had felt frustrated in the past. I realized that it was my flesh that was at war with my spirit. And I had an opportunity to change my disposition, which I did. I'm thankful I did. And I really ended off the evening in a wonderful headspace. And I just really enjoyed the time with my girls, the time with my wife. We had a great dinner time, and just enjoyed my food. Sometimes you get so caught up with the nonsense in the day, you forget the beautiful blessings that you're given, and food is one of those things. So, in your frustration, or in your malcontent, or in your just lack of, for better other words, just being a nice person in the moment, try your best to slow things down, breathe, practice that thankfulness that we've talked about. But even beyond that, I would say remind yourself of not only how things have been worse or could be worse, but why they're not worse. And to tool yourself up for tomorrow, because I'm telling you, you never know what's around that corner, good or bad. And I'm really leaning into that now as I am reminded of all those times when I had those moments where I could have taken the high road, I could have rested a little bit better, I could have, enjoyed the process more, and I didn't. So I'm really going to try super hard to do that in the next couple weeks and months ahead as I have this beautiful time off, and just trust the Lord in general. Yeah, I think if I'm just going through the recesses of my mind, I'm trying to think of any other moments that came up throughout the day. I don't think there's really any. So as I wrap up here, I just want to say that God loves you very much. If you don't know the Lord and you'd like to chat, I would love to talk to you about God on any level if you have any questions. I just hit my 15-year mark being on YouTube. I haven't missed a comment yet in the thousands of comments that have been posted. So if you have a comment, please let me know. I would love to chat with you about anything. And, I'm just so blessed to be here. So blessed to be doing the dishes with y'all, whoever will watch this at any given time. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to get to this part of the video. If you'd like to watch another dad doing dishes, please take a look at the video playlist right here. If you don't mind subscribing and liking, that would be wonderful if you could do that right here. I just want to say thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful day, evening, morning, or night. God bless you.